In the middle of a torrential downpour, Cherian kneels upon a magic circle, his burning desire for wealth rising stronger than ever before. With his phone buzzing incessantly with loan rejection notifications and mounting debt, Cherian clings to this last sliver of hope to change his life. With eyes bloodshot from desperation, Cherian stretches his hands into the void, begging a supernatural force to grant him salvation. Cherian is ready to sacrifice everything, from his soul to his physical form, just to become a servant to that powerful system. Strange violet light glimmers in Cherian's eyes, as if a dark pact with the system has just been officially sealed. A burst of violet energy erupts violently from the system, tearing through the darkness amidst the rain, marking the beginning of a cruel destiny. Cherian lies motionless within the magic circle, his breathing shallow after the ritual concludes. Cherian groans softly, his eyes slowly opening in the pitch-black darkness. A splitting headache strikes, and the memories of unfinished work leave Cherian confused about his current whereabouts. Cherian struggles to get up, clutching his aching head as he tries to piece together the reality around him. Still haunted by unfinished projects, Cherian hurriedly wants to return, but a shocking truth awaits him. Cherian looks at his hands in horror, his reflection in a puddle appearing so unfamiliar that he cannot believe his eyes. Cherian's eyes widen as extreme fear consumes his mind upon realizing something is wrong. The space around him transforms magically, with glowing trees casting a mystical light over the area. Giant, luminous tree stands tall in the middle of the city. Cherian stands there, lost in a completely foreign world. Cherian is stunned, unable to understand what is happening to himself. An ancient book appears amidst the system's glow, declaring that Cherian has successfully summoned it and is entitled to 3 wishes. Cherian is dumbfounded, turning his head to look at the newly appeared system. Skepticism reaches its peak, and Cherian wonders if he has truly transmigrated to another world. Cherian contemplates the protagonist's privileges, thinking that 3 wishes are far too few compared to his expectations. With a mischievous grin, Cherian decides to test his luck by demanding the system grant him 10 more wishes. The system hidden within the book bares its fangs with interest. It seems Cherian's scheme has caught its attention. Violet energy from the system engulfs Cherian, and the book radiates such terrifying pressure that Cherian realizes something is wrong with this deal. Cherian retreats in a panic, the surrounding space feeling as though it is being crushed by the system's dark magic. The system manifests in a giant form, declaring that Cherian is the new soul it has been searching for. Cherian collapses to the ground, overcome with fear as he faces the overwhelming entity before him. Cherian screams in desperation, trying to understand the true nature of the pact and the system that is threatening him. The system mocks him, explaining that Cherian is merely a substitute for the soul that had signed the pact previously. Cherian is shocked to realize he has been tricked. He didn't transmigrate to be a hero, but merely to be a disposable pawn in the system's game. Cherian desperately tries to flee, his heavy breathing and panicked gaze clearly visible on his face. The system suddenly appears, its thorny, ghost energy-filled hand flicking threateningly. Flames erupt violently, engulfing Cherian as a warning of the brutal punishment should he dare to break the pact. Cherian is thrown far away into the dark void, his painful scream echoing in vain. The system looks down on Cherian with contempt, regarding his soul as something cheap and boring. The killing intent radiating from the system is freezing cold, wishing to end Cherian's life immediately. Cherian refuses to submit, arguing sharply about the contract terms to escape death. The system is taken aback by Cherian's resistance, never expecting a mortal to dare question its laws. Cherian realizes this is not an intent to kill, but a test to evaluate his potential. With a face full of wounds, Cherian boldly questions the qualifications required to sign a new pact. The system laughs with interest. Cherian's resilience has caused the system to change its attitude. Laughter echoed throughout the space, a powerful, maddening aura was engulfing Cherian. The system was intrigued by Cherian's audacity, the first person to ever dare to negotiate with it. A blazing contract materialized in mid-air, awaiting Cherian's approval. With a face full of determination, Cherian stood ready to gamble everything for this chance. Cherian had made up his mind, there was no turning back in this game of life and death. The system offered to grant Cherian a new life, provided he made a single wish. Cherian made a daring request that left the system stunned. He wanted 999 more wishes. The system, enraged by Cherian's insolence, warned him that his time was running out. With death closing in, Cherian had exactly 1 minute before losing consciousness entirely. Cherian was left with no choice but to submit to the system's terms. The soul contract was established with 999 harsh conditions, and Cherian officially became a signatory. A surge of immense energy propelled Cherian back to the real world through a spatial rift. Stunned, Cherian looked up at the house number 3 to 5, wondering if this was truly where he belonged. Standing before the door, Cherian felt anxious about his disheveled appearance and cursed the system under his breath. Looking down at his bare, bloodied feet, Cherian felt cruelly abandoned. Facing the system's spatial rift, Cherian was confused and unsure of what to do next. Cherian mused over his identity. Though reluctant, he had to accept his role as a subordinate. Cherian narrowed his eyes, his gaze filled with resolve as he realized it was too late to turn back. Inserting the key into the lock, Cherian decided to take the first step on this thorny path. The door swung open, and Cherian stepped into the enveloping silence. Looking around the empty room, Cherian wondered why no one was home. His mind was heavy with the family's financial burdens. The debt note in his hand left Cherian in shock. A loan collateralized by 2 liters of blood. This was madness. Suddenly, a powerful strike landed with a sickening thud. Cherian collapsed under the attacker's strength, blood beginning to stain the floor. The attacker loomed over him, roaring with rage because Cherian had dared to ignore their debt collection calls. The attackers didn't stop, mocking that Cherian's body could still withstand such torture. Despite being exhausted, a flicker of fury ignited in Cherian's eyes as he rasped, demanding to know the identity of his assailant. The attacker sneered, mocking Cherian's memory before delivering more brutal blows. The attacker cruelly brought up his mother, hurling insults at her absence. Insults rained down on Cherian as the attacker dismissed him as trash who would never amount to anything. A heavy kick landed squarely on Cherian's face. The attacker claimed he didn't even deserve to be called human. Memories flooded back. Cherian recalled his mother's toil and only wished she wouldn't have to suffer anymore. Cherian was haunted by the nightmare of his mother collapsing and never waking up again. Looking at his mother, Cherian felt his heart ache at the thought of their uncertain future. Cherian wondered if one day his mother would truly leave him forever. His mother's gentle hand rested on his head, soothing the anxieties in Cherian's heart. Cherian still feared that he might not be able to become an oracle to protect his loved ones. His mother gently comforted Cherian, assuring him that everything would be all right. In his moment of greatest weakness, his mother's presence was Cherian's only source of strength. His mother's advice echoed in his mind, urging Cherian to believe in himself more. A strange light flared in Cherian's eyes. A new power was beginning to awaken. The attacker continued to spew insults, completely unaware that disaster was looming. The attacker screamed, demanding to know why Cherian was silent. Cherian's stillness made him deeply uneasy. A massive impact erupted as Cherian countered the blow. Cherian delivered the decisive strike, launching the attacker into the air. The attacker's accomplices began to panic, realizing that if they kept pushing, Cherian would surely kill him. A surge of energy exploded outward, knocking back everyone standing in Cherian's way. The attacker collapsed, his face twisted in absolute terror. Panic was etched across his opponent's face as Kara couldn't believe his eyes. Kara screamed in fear, questioning whether the Cherian who had just been sent flying was truly still alive and making a comeback. A terrifying, oppressive aura burst forth, engulfing Cherian. Uni trembled, wondering if Cherian had truly broken through to a higher level of power, a power far beyond anything Uni had ever known. With no patience left for nonsense, Cherian retorted coldly. His eyes, burning red with killing intent, seemed ready to incinerate Uni and silence all the noise. The system immediately updated Cherian's status. Cherian's level had risen from level 1 to level 2, but the price to pay was a massive debt that had just accumulated to over 100 million units. Yarek looks at Cherian with a sneer, believing that a mere level 2 has no right to act so arrogant. Yarek and his henchmen surround Cherian, intent on crippling his limbs right then and there. Cherian observes them calmly, wondering if these guys are sensing his true power or if they're just completely misjudging his level. Unable to keep his cool in the face of Cherian's attitude, Yarek lets out a roar of fury. Yarek launches a powerful punch straight toward Cherian. In Cherian's eyes, all of Jarek's movements appear surprisingly slow and clear. A loud boom echoes as Jarek's fist shatters the ground where Cherian had been standing just a second ago. Yarek stares blankly into the deep crater he just created, only to find his target has vanished into a cloud of dust. Cherian has dashed away with terrifying speed, leaving behind nothing but a blur in the air. Before Yarek can even react, a lightning-fast kick from Cherian strikes him square in the face. Cherian delivers the finishing blow, sending Yarek flying to his utter disbelief. Yarek is in a state of sheer panic. He can't fathom how a level 2 could completely overwhelm him. Despite trying to move into Cherian's blind spot, Yarek is still anticipated and countered at every turn. Cherian lands a critical punch, determined to break Jarek's ribs. The attack connects perfectly, and Yarek is in so much pain that he can't even manage a cry. Yarek screams in despair, terrified that Cherian can predict his every move without even looking. Yarek is sent flying back, completely defeated by Cherian's overwhelming power. In his agony, Yarek begs Cherian to spare his life, desperately shifting all the blame onto someone else. Hearing that familiar name, Cherian's gaze turns colder than ice. Cherian orders the henchmen to leave immediately and warns them never to show their faces before him again. The henchmen hurriedly help each other up and scramble away from the room. As they disappear into the distance, Cherian stands there, watching them in deep thought. Cherian remains silent, his mind focused on something mysterious. Cherian lets out a soft sigh, sensing the changes taking place within his own body. Cherian speaks up as if he is holding a conversation with an invisible entity. A magic book materializes amidst a swirl of dark energy, acknowledging Cherian's keen intuition. Cherian sneers at the help from the magic book, realizing he's being treated as nothing more than a plaything. Magic book retorts irritably, reminding Cherian that he still owes it a vow. Cherian argues back, claiming that without its power boost he'd be stuck in this loop forever. The magic book reluctantly agrees, deciding it will grant Cherian's wishes to help him grow stronger. The magic book peers into Cherian's true nature, realizing that despite his weak physique, their compatibility is off the charts. A strange sensation swells within the book, completely different from when it was summoned by the previous owner. Cherian ponders, his gaze fixed thoughtfully on the void. He wonders if this new soul is the reason for such a sudden change, then asks the magic book when the journey will begin. The magic book seems surprised by Cherian's enthusiasm, insisting that staying in one place is useless and they must leave immediately. Cherian continues to search for answers regarding his wishes, but the magic book remains cryptic, stating that all wishes require the right timing and that Cherian must simply wait patiently. Cherian is left bewildered by the vague response, unsure of his next move. The magic book replies only briefly, leaving Cherian to fend for himself. Cherian sighs in frustration. He resigns himself to reality, telling himself he must adapt to life here. The hope of a wish to strive for seems to have vanished into thin air. Cherian picks up the phone found on the rooftop. He understands that to survive, grasping the situation of this body's previous owner is his top priority. The inbox is overflowing with notifications about debts and bills for supplements. Cherian can't help but be suspicious. Could a prophet really have been this wasteful? Cherian's gaze suddenly freezes when he sees an important notification pop up on the screen. An emergency notification from Haven Hospital states that the mother of the body's previous owner is in a coma, requesting a relative to arrive immediately. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the dark night as Cherian headed straight to Haven Hospital. Cherian appeared at the hospital room door with a look of tension and anxiety. Inside the room, Yuna was sitting quietly by the bedside, the atmosphere suffocating in its silence. A sense of awkwardness washed over Cherian, but he understood that Yuna's anger was entirely justified given the important matters that had been neglected. Cherian realized that the woman was Yuna. Cherian directed his gaze toward the person lying on the hospital bed, his heart constricting. On the bed, his mother lay motionless, her pale face showing clear signs of exhaustion after days of being worn down. The call for mom welled up from deep within Cherian's mind, and a painful memory came rushing back. Seeing how different his mother looked compared to his memories, Cherian wondered if all of this was his own doing. Cherian broke the silence, apologizing to Yuna for arriving late and asking about his mother's condition. Yuna turned around, her eyes filled with skepticism and sarcasm as she sharply questioned what excuse Cherian would use this time. Yuna continued her tirade, asking if he was busy training, breaking through bottlenecks, or summoning gods to accomplish some grand task again. Yuna clenched her fists, choking back tears as she recounted how his mother had worked herself to exhaustion to pay off his debts until she finally collapsed. Her resentment peaking, Yuna screamed, asking why Cherian couldn't show up for his mother even once. Tears streamed down Yuna's face as she insisted that their mother had given the best of everything the family had to Cherian. Yuna continued to expose the bitter truth. Their mother didn't even have enough money to get into the intensive care unit because she had poured everything into paying off Cherian's debts. Yuna emphasized that it was sheer willpower that had kept their mother alive until now. Yuna went quiet for a moment before apologizing to Cherian, admitting that both she and their mother were completely exhausted. Yuna presented the living expenses for the next 6 months, her demeanor ice cold. Yuna declared that from now on she would be the one taking care of their mother and Cherian would have nothing more to do with it. Cherian was stunned. He couldn't believe what he had just heard from Yuna. Yuna's cold farewell was like a blade to Cherian's mind, leaving him frozen in the silent hospital room. In the stillness of the late night, the magic book spoke up, digging deep into the anxiety surrounding Cherian. The magic book hovered in the air, sowing seeds of doubt in Cherian's heart regarding his relationship with Yuna, while asserting that this wasn't his fault. Cherian brushed off his feelings, admitting that seeing Yuna only inadvertently stirred up painful memories from the past. The magic book appeared annoyed, unwilling to let these trivial emotions interfere with the grand plans of Cherian and itself. Cherian replied with determination, believing that as long as he became strong enough, everything would eventually be resolved. Cherian's eyes turned cold as he stared into the void, questioning the commitment of the magic book. The magic book, with its glowing red demonic eye full of malice, did not hesitate to offer a tempting promise to Cherian. Magic book chuckled in satisfaction, realizing the shift in Cherian's hungry, ambitious gaze. Wrapped in a blue aura, Cherian embarked on a contract fraught with dangerous variables. Information about the world of Novus emerged, a realm of swords and sorcery marked by a harsh class divide under the shadow of the World Tree. Dazzling, vibrant lights blanket the Lumina Club in Right City, where the darkest secrets are beginning to be concealed. Inside a lavish presidential suite, the masterminds behind the scenes are plotting over the massive profits they've just raked in. A powerful figure, enjoying a life of luxury, orders his subordinates to accelerate the debt collection process as his superiors have run out of patience. He takes a drag from his cigar, scoffing with disdain when mentioning those who are intentionally delaying payments to line their own pockets. Grunts, declaring that he will severely punish anyone who dares to stand in his way, even though this particular case is a bit unique. A subordinate reports on the incident in Sector A, where 3 debt collectors were defeated by Cherian. The powerful figure's eyes glint behind his dark glasses upon learning that the culprit is merely a student who just broke through to grade 2. Curiosity piqued, he demands that his subordinate clarify Cherian's identity. Cherian's file is presented, and the man remains skeptical about how a grade 2 student could possibly take down grade 3 opponents. Smirking, he assumes that Cherian is intentionally hiding his true strength. A calculated smile appears on his face. He feels that Cherian is an intriguing prey. He orders his subordinate to keep a close watch on Cherian, determined not to let such talent go to waste. Outside, wind howls through the blocks as Cherian diligently trains his body in the early morning sun. Cherian strides quickly down the street, determination etched in every movement. The shopkeeper, just opening his store, is surprised to see Cherian out so early. The shopkeeper enthusiastically greets Cherian and doesn't forget to push the latest energy-boosting potion on him. Cherian politely refuses as he still has supplies, promising to return once he runs out. Watching Cherian's retreating figure, the shopkeeper sighs in admiration at the vitality of youth. After a few days of settling in, Cherian has gradually grasped how this world works, where humans absorb star energy to become stronger. The Oracle grading system, from E to S, shows that physical strength and supernatural abilities are directly proportional to one's rank. To grow stronger, oracles are forced to constantly absorb star energy. The price of power is expensive potions, and not everyone can ascend in rank easily. Many people, desperate for power, are willing to take on debt, only to end up in complete ruin. Cherian grips the horizontal bar tightly. He knows he must become stronger to escape his massive debt. With his contract with the God of Darkness, Cherian tells himself this is his one and only chance to change his destiny. The system displays his mission list. Cherian has completed the training quest and received a reward of +5 physical stats. Feeling the change in his body, Cherian realizes that absorbing supplements has become significantly more effective. Cherian looks at his arm, knowing this is only the beginning of his journey to conquer his goals. Suddenly, a phone ringtone cuts through Cherian's early morning thoughts. It's the class representative calling to remind Cherian that his leave of absence is over and he needs to return to school immediately. Cherian sighs, holding the phone with a look of weariness. Although the break is over, he has little interest in heading back to school. White Oracle High School looms under the clear blue sky, the starting point for days filled with immense academic pressure. The teacher stands at the podium, using a pointer to gesture at the board, beginning a lesson on the importance of oracles to the global economy. Cherian sits in the classroom, taking diligent notes. In this world, an oracle's status is determined entirely by their rank and the district they live in. Cherian notes down the world's hierarchical map. The 5th tier, home to ordinary people and grade E entities known as EXO, is the lowest rung. Conversely, the 4 central tiers of the city are symbols of power, where only those grade D and above are permitted to set foot. Cherian muses deeply, his eyes revealing firm resolve. With his current status, he knows he must quickly find a way to increase his power to change his fate. A small piece of chalk falls, making a dry, sharp sound in the quiet classroom. Sound of the chalk hitting the desk is distinct, shattering Cherian's focus. The students around him begin to mock him, eyes glued to Cherian as they whisper incessantly about him. Another student sneered at Cherian, mocking him for supposedly being good only at theory while being nothing more than a pathetic level 1 weakling in reality. Faced with the provocation, Cherian remained perfectly calm. He was already far too accustomed to people who only knew how to look down on others like this. Teacher announced the upcoming physical examination, instructing all students to change into their gear and assemble at the stadium. The training ground of Right Oracle Academy was vast, the very place where brutal tests awaited the students. As the sun beat down on the training field, the atmosphere grew intense with the students preparing for the assessment. The Imperial Academy, most of the time, is dedicated to physical exams. Cherian was still enjoying this school experience. Suddenly, another student approached and called out Cherian's name with an aggressive tone. Everyone's attention shifted to the training field, where a brawl seemed ready to break out between Cherian and his antagonist. The crowd whispered, already used to the two of them clashing right in the middle of class. Jaba grabbed Cherian by the collar, growling as he mocked the newfound arrogance Cherian had been displaying lately. He continued his insults, asserting that in the world of Oracle, only strength is the truth, and Cherian was nothing but a useless level 1. Cherian stared straight into his opponent's eyes, coldly retorting with a sarcastic question that left him stunned. Jaba's confidence vanished, replaced by an expression of extreme shock at Cherian's attitude. Losing control due to anger, he roared and swung his fist, intending to deal a fatal blow to Cherian. But in a split second, Cherian reacted, catching the attacker's fist with overwhelming strength. Unfazed, Cherian gripped his hand tightly and nonchalantly asked if he was done with his nonsense. Jaba panicked, struggling to break free but unable to escape Cherian's iron grip. He began to doubt the true extent of Cherian's power. Cherian exuded an overwhelming aura, his sharp gaze making his opponent tremble as he threw the very same arrogant words back at him. Fear was written all over the antagonist's face. He stammered, unable to utter a word in the face of Cherian's unexpected strength. With a powerful squeeze, Cherian completely suppressed his opponent, leaving him terrified of the person he once dismissed as a useless level 1. Feeling the immense pressure bearing down, Cherian's eyes couldn't hide his surprise at the strength he had just unleashed. Faced with such strong resistance, the merchant smirked, his voice dripping with sarcasm as he stared straight at Cherian. The merchant radiated killing intent, his eyes glowing red with menace as he interrogated Cherian for daring to cause trouble. Amidst the extremely tense atmosphere, Cherian maintained a calm expression, walking with full confidence as if the threats didn't affect him in the slightest.